Hello and welcome to Live After 5. It's nice to be back and thank you for being patient as I recovered from my extended illness. So if you can call it that, we're not quite sure what it was, but I'm better now and back to being myself. So thank you. Today we're back. We're here with Beth Hamm, who is our local FWC alligator licensed alligator trapper. I'm going to go through her a little bit about her. Beth has been with the FWC for 9 years. She works with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, otherwise in other words, FWC. She's a licensed and contracted nuisance alligator trapper, licensed and insured alligator exhibitor, and bear response contractor. So she knows everything probably that there is to know about alligators, and she probably will let me know real fast that you never know anything because every species is very unpredictable at times, but she knows why they eat, when they eat, how they sense, how they smell, where they hang out, what time of year they're hanging out, where they're hanging out. And she's just not fluffing this up and using what some people may deem as scare tactics, because these things are as beautiful as they are, is as dangerous as they are. And she's going to explain to us some of the things that she's observed going on in our community so that we can keep ourselves safe. And I'm probably going to get in trouble saying this, but probably the people that need to hear this the most isn't going to be tuning in. So what I don't want to happen is by people being careless and taking risk and having a direct effect, a bad effect on people who aren't participating in risky behavior. So, it's the innocence, it's the alligators getting fed and then coming up further than maybe they normally would had they not been fed. So I want to let you take it over from here. I know that you have to address some really, really important points and observations, and that's why you have asked to be heard tonight, and welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. To those attending, thank you for being here. And I'm actually going to ask for your help with spreading some of the information. I'm also going to tell you, unrelated, oh, my dog might just start barking because I just had someone walk in the door. So I wanted to apologize that she's being really quiet. So back to gators. If you've been to one of my presentations before, this is going to be quite a bit different because we really wanted to address some issues that are happening right now in Ave Maria. So I want to make as many people aware of these as possible and really ask you to help educate your neighbors too and get the word out. So if you've ever met me or talked with me before, you know I have a great love for these animals. Very misunderstood, but I also do understand how many people can be intimidated by them, frightened of them, but we're gonna work through some of that. The big issues that are happening right now in Ave can lead to some really, really bad situations, and I don't like to be aware. So you may have heard me in the past say, do not feed, do not feed, do not feed. It is so very important. We're having these problems happening in your town. We have people who are actually going out in their backyards and throwing food out, are feeding indirectly, which means they are going out and throwing food to the turtles or the fish or whatever. Alligators learn very quickly that that's a free source of food for them, and they will show up, and they are showing up. If by any chance, highly unlikely, because as Michelle had mentioned, the sad thing is The people who need to hear this the most probably aren't here, but if you are, please, please take this to heart and help us. You may have seen one of these going around. I've actually hand delivered these to, I'll give you a little bit of closer look here, to some doorsteps right on people's front porches. Some people may have been offended because this post here, this little flyer, talks about feeding and how it is against the law, harassing, capturing, any of the above. Lori actually has a copy of this for anyone who would like one, and she can get that to you. I have listed here some of the Florida statutes and some of the fines that go along with it, because some people, you can try to educate them and explain to them what not to do and why not to do it. But it doesn't hit a lot of people unless it hits them in the wallet, or unless it hits them when they're sitting in a very small room with bars for walls. So that sounds really dramatic, but these laws are there for a reason, not to, try to nail every person who's doing something wrong, but to keep people safe. So the feeding, I'm out feeding the wildlife, period. And I'm the only one doing it. The problem with that is this alligator, or these alligators, learn that humans are now a source of food. So any human they see, they will try to approach, thinking that you're going to give it a handout, just like I have been giving it a handout. So I may be doing this, you may live on the next street over. An alligator senses that a person has come out, hears a person come outside, they're going to swim right over and approach you. They don't come to attack you, the person. They come to see what you have to eat. And it can lead into a really, really, really bad situation. I have been in incidents where I say attacked, and were regarding alligators that had been fed by people. Now, those people were out of the picture, totally innocent bystanders happened to come in and approach them expecting food to be thrown to them, and they were bitten. The good thing about it was the alligator realized, oh, this is not the hot dog or the piece of bread or whatever that I was expecting, and let them go. The bad part about that is those people still were bitten. One of the worst things about an alligator bite, people often think that it has to do with, you lose a limb, you lose an arm, a leg, something like that. It actually is the infection that can happen. So in your community and in the Maple Ridge area in general, I have removed in probably the last 4 months, I would have to say close to 10 alligators, maybe more, that are a direct result of people feeding the alligators. I'm going to still talk, but I'm going to step aside for a second. Sorry, well, I didn't keep talking, did I? Sorry about that. So in Florida, when I, as a nuisance alligator trapper, capture an alligator, I am required by law, if it is over 4 feet in length, to kill that alligator. Some people don't care about that. Some people are terribly upset about that. I actually carry an additional license that allows me to keep the animal alive as long as it goes to a licensed facility. So any alligators that I catch, I am not allowed to take them back out to the wild. I have been working with the farm for years up in LaBelle, which is about an hour north, maybe a little more than that, of Ave Maria. Great farm. It is an alligator farm. With everything that's going on, with the pandemic in particular, the farm is almost to a point where it may have to halt operations. If that happens, I do not have a place for these alligators to go. So I tell you this because that means there is a chance that alligators that I catch may end up having to die. And again, I understand that many people don't care. It's part of it. Other people are just horrified by that thought. But I want to be very transparent with you on what's going to happen to these animals. As much as I love them, humans always come first, always. Pets always come first. If you haven't heard, we've had one family's pet dog that was taken by an alligator and killed, sadly, very sadly. We also had another family's dog that was caught by an alligator, but some residents were able to help in getting the alligator off of the dog and get it back. It did end up going to the vet. I have not heard minor injuries. Michelle, do you by any chance know anything about that? An update on that second?
Hold on just a moment, please. Let
Okay.
me see what I'm doing here. Here we go. Okay. No, I haven't heard. I know the dog is doing fine, but yeah, I do know what you're talking about, the infection. It's not really the loss of a limb or bleeding out, depending on where the gator grabs you or how big the gator is, because they don't let go. They don't let go once they get a hold of you, and they would the death, what is that called? How they drown their prey. They drown and we're prey. So
the death roll.
Yeah, the death roll. So, and I do know that when I lived out on Sanibel, we did lose a landscaper, and she survived, but it was due to infection that eventually ended her life. You know who I'm talking about, Janie.
Yeah. Yeah, that is never a good thing. So a lot of this that we're talking about so far sounds really, really horrible. One thing I do want to mention, while they are heroes in my book for many reasons, the second dog that was attacked by an alligator first had a group of kids, a group of your kids in Ave Maria, go to its aid and try to get it away from the alligator. While they are my heroes for that reason and others, which I'll hopefully remember to talk about in a minute, oh my Lord, I talked to them and I begged them to please never do that again, because that could have been a very horrible situation. I totally get why they did it. And thankfully, some adults happened on them and realized what was going on and got into the way and intervened and got the kids away. But the reason I bring that up too, the situation with the dogs has nothing to do necessarily, usually nothing at all, with the feeding of alligators. A dog being on four legs is much more the size and shape of an alligator's natural prey. So it is extremely important that we keep our pets on a leash. Now, the incidents that happen, the dogs just happen to get away, and that does happen sometimes, but we have to do everything we can to keep them. There is not a lot that we can do aside from keeping them on a leash to keep them protected. Now, we need to work on them to keep them away from lakes or any body of water. because like I said, they more resemble an alligator's natural prey. And instinctively, if they are hungry and needing something to eat and they see a prey animal in front of them, they may go after it. Now, we do have one situation where there have been some alligators that have been hanging out near a residence with dogs. I'm not going to go into detail and give any type of location. If anyone in that area is familiar with it, you'll know, but kind of irrelevant. And I don't want to give that kind of personal information away. But we have a couple of alligators that have been hanging out around a couple of homes that have dogs. It also happens that a neighbor in that area has been going out and feeding the alligators. So this neighbor going out and feeding the alligators is actually drawing them to the area. So that lake alone, I have removed 4 alligators recently. I take one out, another one moves in. I take one out, another one moves in. Mainly because we have humans out there feeding, and the gators know that they're going to come in for a free meal.
Beth,
So, yes, ma'am.
So do they, alligators, okay, so when do they do what mammals do and signal their family members to their food? How do they sense that there's food because one alligator is there, and then all of a sudden you start seeing more and more come? What goes on there?
It is completely by smell for them. They have a great sense of smell, and they will come in. If there happens to be an alligator, not just coming in because of smell, they learn very quickly. If they see a person coming out to the water's edge or very near, and then things being thrown in the water, they learn, hey, that's something I really need to check out. That could be a free meal. And along that line too, I want to touch on harassing alligators, also against the law. And here's why. Harassing, let me tell you what that would be first. That would be typically or intentionally, poking an alligator maybe with sticks or a rake handle or something like that. Usually when people are harassing, they see an alligator in the area and they want it to go away, so they'll pick up sticks or rocks or pine cones or something and throw them at the alligator. That is harassing. The way I try to describe it to people, you maybe don't get along with your neighbor very well, let's just say. And every time you come outside, your neighbor just doesn't like you or something. So they start throwing things at you. So I try to ask people, how long would you tolerate having rocks and sticks thrown at you before you would actually lash back out, either verbally or sometimes physically? So, I don't know why we would try to taunt a wild animal in that way also. Sometimes these alligators, when you're throwing things at them, they think it's food and they actually will come towards you rather than go away also. So that's not a good idea. Another thing that is happening a lot in Ave, and I think more so now than it has ever been in the past, a lot because of COVID and everything that's going on, and so many more people have been at home, harassing by fishing. And that's going to sound a little odd to some people. What I mean by that, we have a lot more people fishing in town than normal. We have people who will cast out a line while they're fishing, maybe even catch a fish. And as they're reeling it in, here comes Mr. Gator. It's a free meal. It's an easy meal. I don't have to hunt for it. I'll just take the fish off of that kid's line and I won't have to go to work for it. There's also people who will see an alligator and they will intentionally try to cast out their line either near the alligator or actually try to hit the alligator with their lure or whatever they're using, and then reel in and entice the alligator closer. Um, Huge problem, huge problem. I do not know why I can never remember the name of the lake. The large lake that runs kind of behind Publix and in front of the Donahue Academy, the school. That's the one lake in Ave Maria where you are allowed to fish. Um, most communities within Ave do allow residents to fish in their own backyard. Um, that's great too, but please don't do that activity of, casting out and intentionally trying to get the alligator, even if it's in your own backyard, because somebody 10 houses down may decide to come out and go fishing, and they may not know how to handle the situation of an alligator now chasing their lure. The best advice I can give, and especially in the big lake where it's the one lake in Ave where everybody can fish, if you're fishing there and you see an alligator that is showing interest, I hate to say this because it's a real party buster, but stop what you're doing and move to a different location. If you can move to the opposite end of the lake, or something like that, a good distance away from where that alligator is, maybe try fishing there or wait until another time. And I know that sounds like a real bummer because so many people are enjoying it right now, but I have had tons of reports at that bridge on the lake that goes right over to the school. I actually had to remove an alligator from there that was just about 4 feet, a little guy. But that little gator was not afraid of a single person. Anybody that walked down even remotely close to that water, apparently he thought he was either going to be fed or somebody's coming to fish, and he would follow them. Walking on the walking path, he was following people. There's another one also in that lake, rather large to most people's standards, probably about 7 feet, maybe a little bit bigger. I've had several people call just to let me know that he's there. Several people call very concerned. And I actually had a handful of people call that were concerned, thinking that the alligator was in some sort of danger. They thought that it was wrapped up in some kind of fishing line. Turns out when I got there, which was later the night of the handful of calls, no line was around the gator. I did see him. I have not seen him since. And I haven't received any other calls about him being back in the area. So maybe he moved on, which would be an okay thing. But those are the real and harassing. And by feeding, I mean intentionally or unintentionally. Harassing, same thing. Keeping our pets on that leash. And I know I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, my dog is never off leash. I do a lot of my alligator runs and, looking for the gators that I need to catch at night, especially this time of year. It gets so hot during the day that I will often kind of cut off in the afternoon and then go back out later at night. And the same people that have told me my dog is never off leash, when I get out there at night, what do I see but a lanai door open, and here's that person just opening their door and letting the dog run out back to use the bathroom. And alligators are most active from dusk all night until dawn. And we just don't want to chance. My dog, I believe, is very well behaved. But when it comes to water, I never trust her to listen to me. She loves the water. She hates alligators, absolutely cannot stand them, but she loves the water. And I don't know if she went off running, if her behavior and her good behavior, if she would actually listen to me and come back. And I'm not willing to take that chance. So there is that. And one last thing about the dangerous aspect that I want to bring up. I think we're getting a pretty good handle on this, for lack of better terms, but we have had some issues with kids that are playing, believe it or not, I'm not exaggerating this, in the lakes. So it seems like when we get one under control, then I hear about another situation, have to go to another place. Parents, please talk to your kids. I don't want to make them fearful. I want to make them aware, though. They, depending on age, are also, lower to the ground, maybe more resembling a natural prey. We don't want that. Kids, when they're in the water, will often splash around in the water, which a splashing noise in the water to an alligator sounds like an animal in distress, or maybe an animal that's at the edge of the water getting a drink, and see if it's, an animal that they can catch to eat. So make sure they're not doing these kinds of things. If you see me around town, or if we have to ask anything specific about that, please do be with you about that. While I'm talking about the kids too, they truly are some of my heroes, not just like with the dog earlier that I was telling you about, but man, the kids, especially in Ave, are like my champions. They will take what I teach them and they will go out and share it with everybody, which is amazing. They really, the majority show great respect for our wildlife, which is just kind of melts my heart. So if you think your kids aren't into it, maybe ask them, because you might be surprised. Michelle and I are actually working on some little eyes and ears open to what Michelle has to tell you. I'm not going to give anything away now, but the kids, I think, are going to love it. I think some of the grown-ups might too. But so that is pretty much what my big concern was, and why I wanted to get on here and do this now, is just to address these problems we're having right now, this moment in Ave. If you have a chance to, when we do a regular presentation, if you haven't been to one of them, please do come. They're, I think, very educational. We'll get into a lot of different things rather than all these things that sound so scary. But Michelle, do you have anything, or we want to open it to Q&A? Or
Thank you. Yes, and feel free to use the chat function to ask any questions. But before you sign off, I do want to let you know that I am going to be making a few announcements at the end, and we're not going to keep you too much longer. But Beth, you were cutting out when you were talking about the kids waiting, and that is, let me tell you something. I have 4 children who are raised now, and they grew up on Sanibel. And every time I see a child close to the water, they don't even have to be splashing near the water. I just get goosebumps. I have to stop and say something, and I'm always nice. It's not like I'm yelling at them or anything like that. Get out of the water. But I think that it's just, we can't have our eyes on our children all the time. But the way that I used to tell my kids is, the alligator thinks that you're a bird. An alligator thinks you're a bird, and it likes to eat birds. So, or it thinks that you're a bunny, and it likes to eat bunnies, so you can't trust them. And the one thing that I did want to talk about is, now that we have a lot of water, a lot of rain, rainy season, hurricane season, and the water levels, and you're frozen, Beth, so I'm hoping you can hear me. But the water levels are high at this point. So rather than the alligators coming up to the bank and being able to get that sun, because they have to warm their body in order to digest their food, right? So they hang out on the banks, but as the water gets higher, they lose that bank, and that's when they start going up into the lawns, correct?
That is
So,
correct.
so that's closer to the sidewalk.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And it's not that they want to be up closer to your house. But they have to get out of the water, like Michelle was saying. They have their body temperature. It acts as a way to help them digest their food. It also kind of acts like a battery recharge for them. It helps to energize their body again and get going. So when the waters do get higher, like they are right now, they have to go up to where that level is to get out. One thing I didn't mention, I hope I'm coming through and not breaking up here too. If you see an alligator that maybe is up in the yard and you are concerned about it, I know a lot of people really love seeing that. But if you are, rather than, excuse me, sorry about that. If you are wanting to try something to maybe get it to wake up out of its sunbathing nap and move on, rather than throwing things at it, make noise. Like, don't go out there trying to be quiet. Make noise. If it means coming out, now this can work with bears also, with a lot of wildlife. If you need to get a spoon and a pan and pound on them, make noise. If you have a little, air, now, I don't know how long your neighbors are going to tolerate too much noise, but just enough to let them know, oh my gosh, here comes a human. I need to get back in the water, because they don't want to be around us by nature. So to make noise and get them to go away, but don't be alarmed just by seeing one out sunning, because that they have to do.
Yes,
Okay, Miss Michelle.
yes, they do. Thank you.
That was a
So,
good point, by the way.
yeah, that's, well, yeah, they do. They come right up, you walk down the sidewalk and it's like, I always walk across the street because, I love wildlife. I love nature. And if I have a choice to stay in a high-end hotel or going camping, I'm going to choose camping because I love nature. But, but I don't want to get hurt either. And they don't want to hurt us, just like you said, and they probably don't even prefer human meat, but you walk up on them and they're hungry and it's dinner time, guess what's going to happen? So.
Yeah. And we also, not to veer too far off, but I'm going to say probably the past 4 nights that I've been out there, not the past 4 nights in a row, but over maybe the last week and a half, 4 different nights that I was out there, I got to see a bobcat. One day last week, it might have been around noon. I'm not even sure what time it was. Bobcat ran out across the street in front of me. So those are there. And I'm sure if any of you are on Facebook, you've seen that the bear is kind of making his rounds. And the thing with that is, like Michelle is saying too, not just gators, any of this wildlife, you have to show them the respect that a wild animal should be shown. And then remember that they are pretty, not within a community like that, and you wanted to act differently, you could do that. Some of these things would still be against the law, but because you do live within a community like this, now whether you like them or not, you have your other neighbors to think about too, because you could be, putting them in harm's way too. But helping to educate your neighbors, and then giving these wild animals, if you want to take pictures of them, that's awesome too. But even cell phone cameras now have a zoom lens, so there's no need to get right up on these animals, alligators or otherwise.
Yeah, and that's great that you said that. I live in Ave Maria because of where it is. And because I do love nature, and I love the woodlands, and I love being near the Everglades. I've been in Southwest Florida for 43 years, and I wouldn't ever leave, you know. If you like cement and you don't want to see bugs and animals, then what can I say? You're not going to get that here. But anyway, no, and you know, I have met new residents that have come into the clubhouse to activate their fobs and everything, and I'm always so excited to see them and congratulate them. But you know, and they're not from this area, and they're always asking me, so are there really alligators? Yes, there are really alligators here, you know. And the one thing I think that surprises most people is the fact that, you know, when I was a kid, and of course, my parents would always come to Florida for a vacation, and we'd stop by the roadside things, and they'd have these little alligator heads like that. Well, I was always under the impression that they were small. They weren't that big, you know, until I saw an 8-footer in my driveway. And then I realized that they were a lot bigger than those little heads, alligator heads. So,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And they're beautiful. And the one behind you that looks like it's going to take a bite out of you is awesome. I love that photograph. That's a beautiful photograph.
Yeah, he's a wonderful gator. Look at those beautiful eyes. And what dentist wouldn't, I'm trying to figure out how to get away so you can see his teeth. What dentist wouldn't love those chompers?
How big is he?
I have absolutely no clue. If I had to guess, and it's hard because that picture's kind of skewed, I'm going to say he's at least 7 feet, maybe bigger, but yeah, I'm not sure on that one.
Let's do some trivia, okay?
Okay.
From eyes to the tip of the nose is what?
If you see on, let's see, oh, it's not going to show like that. Let's see, let me get you let me try it this way. If you go from the bump on the nose, which is right about in here, and of course, now if you're looking at the alligator sideways and you go all the way back to the center of the eye and you have that measurement, if you kind of guesstimate that that's about a 6-inch spread between that bump and the bump in the eyes, then you know you have roughly a 6-foot alligator. So if you have a 12-foot spread between the nose and the eyes, you're probably looking at about a 12-foot alligator.
That's right.
And did I just answered that? Were you wanting to ask that of the the people viewing, or were you asking me?
You. No, I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Because, I mean, I knew that. I learned that a whole long time ago in a high school environmental education class. So I know that a lot of people don't realize that you can really calculate or estimate the length of an alligator by looking at that. Yeah, but all living creatures, we're all very, I mean, even human beings. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that from when you extend your arms out from fingertip to fingertip is actually how tall you are. So, and that the distance between your wrist and your elbow joint is the size of your foot. So, you know, there's a whole bunch of things, and wildlife is no different. So that's a little bit of trivia, but I'm going to let you go. I'm going to let everybody go here. If there's nobody has asked any questions at this time, we'll hang on for a few more minutes. And while you type your questions or think of a question that you might have, I'll go ahead and review some other stuff. But in the meantime, Beth, thank you so much. You have provided invaluable services to our community. We all love you. And for anybody who's new to Maple Ridge at Ave Maria, you're going to come to know Beth too. She's always working out here. She's on the fly. We need you. She's here. So she knows these waters. She knows which alligators hang out where and how they move and all of that. But we really appreciate you, Beth. And we especially appreciate the fact that you're always so willing to educate our residents and that's what it is. It's all about education. Knowledge is power, right? Okay, you're bleeping out a little bit. So while her internet is coming out, nobody's asking questions. Thank you again for everyone who has watched on Facebook. We have had several, more than what I expected.
It really is.
Tune in on.
What's that?
I said we have had a lot of visitors on. We've had a lot of viewers on Zoom as well as on Facebook Live. I'm very, very surprised, and I love the receptivity on such short notice. Everybody was really, really just, I'm surprised at the numbers. So thank you to the residents of Maple Ridge and in Ave Maria. If you've happened to stumble upon this live video, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for wanting to be informed. Thank you for wanting to learn more about this beautiful natural habitat we live in. It is absolutely gorgeous, but we have to know what to do and what not to do in order to keep ourselves safe. This is the first Live After 5 after my little recovery time that I had to take during for an illness that I was non-COVID related illness. So I was out for a while, so I'm getting back on the horse. And of course, we opened up with Beth, who I couldn't have chosen a better person to interview. I have interviews lined up for the next month and a half. So every Wednesday at 5:30, make sure to join us. And as Beth mentioned, we are putting our heads together, and I'm going to be rolling out something specifically for children and specifically about wildlife. And it isn't dry, and it isn't all about, it's not all about, safety and all of that. It's things, it's a very, it's going to be a wonderful activity for them to really, really get to know their natural environment and learn to love it and learn to respect it and be able to educate mom and dad. So they come home and they tell you.
They do.
At school today. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody. And until next week, we're signing off. And remember, we'll be posting early this week of everybody that is on the roster to be interviewed in the future. And thank you, Beth. Your expertise is valuable. Thanks.
Thank you. Can I butt in one more time before we go?
Please, please.
I just noticed, and I don't know how I even picked up on that. I hope I'm not pronouncing your name wrong, but Lupe asked a question. Do you know till when the bears will be around? Do you mind if I just briefly answer that question?
Please do. Please do.
Okay. It's actually a difficult question to answer, but as long as the bears have a free source of food, much like alligators, they're going to be coming around. So not sure what area you're in, Lupe, but trash is the biggest attractant for bears. So if the trash is going out the night before in an unsecured trash can, the bears are going to come and have a buffet going through everyone's trash. So that's going to be the big thing, is getting the trash to either not go out until the morning before, or the morning of, excuse me, or some other things that is a whole nother topic. Maybe we can get set up to do a bear presentation too sometime in the near future, because I know that bear has been making his rounds throughout Ave in different communities. So Lupe, I'm sorry I can't answer that exactly for you. I know he has been kind of making a circle around Ave, but the big thing is going to be that trash. And if I'm not mistaken, your trash collection days, Wednesday. Are they Wednesday and Saturday? Mm-hmm. Okay, so chances are, since your trash is picked up on Wednesdays and Saturdays, the bears will very likely show up on Tuesday nights and Friday nights because they know that's when the trash is going to go out. So best thing to do, let's see, today is Wednesday. Last night was probably a good night for the bears to snack around, but keeping that trash secured, number one thing to get those bears to kind of move on to less human populated places.
Very good. Anybody else have a question? I'm typing right now, so I'm multitasking, and I didn't lead off with this, but typically I have a couple of monitors that I have to look at through the interview, so I'm not distracted. I'm just multitasking. So I'm typing right now. Okay,
That alone is impressive. The
what's that?
multitasking. That alone is very impressive. And thank you everyone for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Beth, oh, real quick, Beth, if somebody does need to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
Well, Facebook is a good way on my Facebook page. I think you have that address. I guess you could probably make that available to them. If they have any questions, they can definitely send me a message there. If you have a concern about a nuisance alligator, best bet would be to call either management there, call Lori at the club, or the Master Association. Both are in touch with me regularly. And when they hear of an alligator concern, they get a hold of me pretty much right away. And to find out, am I already aware of that? Am I working it? Or if not, will I please go check it out? So yeah.
So they could message you. Okay, so I know you have your personal profile. And you have a business page also?
Yes.
And what is that? What is that name?
That is, I'm going to type it. Now, this is on Facebook. So, and I tried to be cute when I did this, which cute never works in this case anyway. So my page is Gator Beth, but here's where the cute part came in. I just typed it in there. It's actually G and then the number 8, the letter R, Beth. So G8R is Gator. Do you see? I was trying to be cute.
No, I love it.
And I made it confusing for people.
It's awesome.
So if you go on Facebook and you search for Gator Beth spelled that way, you will pop up to my page and you can send me a message there. Just keep in mind that sometimes I don't answer right away. If I'm out working on, alligator calls, if I sat answering messages all day, I would never get my job done. So I will reply, but you might have to wait just a little bit, but yeah, that's a good way. So if you leave here and then you think, oh my gosh, 2 hours from now, why didn't I ask her whatever? Go ahead and send me a message. If you don't have access to that, send Michelle your question and she'll get that to me and we'll get you an answer.
And I'm going to follow up. I'll be forwarding this post-production video. I'll forward that in an email and have all your contact information or different relevant information. I'm going to go ahead and also attach the flyer that you showed in the very, very beginning. I'll attach that also and update Facebook also with all the information. Okay. And just so that you know, if you come across a friend or a neighbor or a family member, or your children, maybe not everybody was able to come onto Zoom right now or watch on Facebook, those videos are always archived. So if you don't have a Facebook account, no problem. They're in an appropriate playlist, all of the Live After 5, so you can go back and review that or direct somebody that might be interested in learning a little bit more. But also post-production, I'm also going to be uploading, or I already have started, onto our YouTube channel. And those links are going to be going out also when I send the update out with the recap, with the video recap, okay?
Awesome.
There's more than one way to see it. So, and it'll be there for the future. So, okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye. Thank you, Beth, so much.
You are welcome. Talk to you soon, everyone.
All righty. Bye. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Live After 5. I'll see you next Wednesday. We're back on a weekly schedule. Thank you for your patience while I had to take some necessary downtime. I truly appreciate all the well wishes and the checkups that I got, but I'm back. So now we'll be interviewing on a regular schedule again. Be well and have a great evening. See ya.